Cartel is to find out who stole the money.
It could be someone on my team, one of my own people.
Some of us are getting paid, rest of us are just getting dead.
Cartel's got your wife and kid. I'm sorry.
Tell John to come for you.
I'm gonna destroy them.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2014 Arnold Schwarzenegger film Sabotage. The film is co-written and directed by David Ayer, and it stars, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger as John Breacher. We have Sam Worthington, we have Terrence Howard, Olivia Williams, Joe Manganiello, Josh Holloway. Pretty all-star cast, really. And the film focuses on Arnold Schwarzenegger's character Breacher, who runs essentially an undercover task force for the DEA that basically are the team that you call in to take down, whomever. They are really highly trained. They're kind of a law unto themselves, and they're pretty badass. And we see at the beginning of the film they take down, there's like a drug bust that they do, and you pretty much see them stealing $10 million. It is then discovered that money has gone missing. Their superiors pick up on what's going on. They all get suspended. They all get questioned. They're under the spotlight for 6 months. Where's this money gone? Who's stolen it? Etc. 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 They can't find any evidence. They can't find any proof. So they put the team back into active duty. However, because this money was stolen from a cartel, members of the team start turning up dead. And it is up to Breacher and Olivia Williams' character, a detective in the police department, to figure out who's killing his team before there's nobody left. Right, what are my thoughts on Sabotage? Now, I remember when this came out, I was pretty excited for this film, I'm not going to lie. I mean, the cast itself was impressive. We've got David Ayer in charge of the film, and, he knocks these films generally out of the park. And the whole concept of it just sounded really cool to me. And I think unfortunately at the time, I think all the press could really talk or think about was Arnold's terrible haircut in the film, which is true. It's pretty bad. He didn't like it himself. And I've always found this film to be pretty criminally underrated, I have to be honest. I think it's a really well put together action thriller. Pretty gritty, adult themes going on. It doesn't hold any punches, and a pretty good twist ending, I suppose. It's not mind-blowing or anything, the twist or the ending, but I remember at the time it kind of floored me. And because these films are quite old, and I'm kind of talking about, a film that's been out for a few years, I'm not too worried about spoilers in films like this, but essentially, Schwarzenegger here is, when you weigh it all up, playing a villainous character, but it's a very complex character that he's playing for the reasons that he's doing what he's doing. You absolutely understand. You learn that 2 years previously, his wife and his son, I think it is, or his children, were kidnapped by a cartel and brutally tortured and murdered. And he's never been able to get over it, and he's never been able to track down who did it. So he's got his own agenda, really, Schwarzenegger. And the rest of this team, I mean, the distrust that starts to develop between this team, who's stolen the money, who's trying to kill them. I think it's really good to see this team essentially crumble around each other. I do take on board some of the criticisms for this film, in a sense of some of the characters feel a bit caricatured, a bit pantomime, a little bit over the top, and a bit unlikable, pretty much at times. But you could kind of understand a team like this that kind of, lives on the edge of the law, basically, and beyond it with some of them. You only can really just manage someone with Schwarzenegger's stature, his character Breacher, that they completely and utterly respect. He's really the only one that they respect and trust, and the only one that can kind of control them. And I liked that aspect of the film. They almost looked at him like as a father figure, and they would never cross him and all this kind of stuff. And it really does work. I think where the film kind of falls down a little bit is I think it would have been better to establish these characters a little bit more, rather than the first time you meet them, you just see them doing this raid and then stealing the money. So it kind of puts you on the back foot with them straight away. You kind of think, oh, they're thieves, are they? But I think if they'd just set it up a little bit better and maybe made us root for some of the characters a bit better, because the film does a good job of putting a good cast in here, but does a fairly poor job of getting you to relate to or like any of the other characters other than Arnold's. And ultimately, it becomes a point in this film where it's really it's an investigation by Arnold Schwarzenegger's character and Olivia Williams' character. And to be fair, they've both got good chemistry. I mean, Arnold, anyway, in this film and films like this, always kind of delivers. And you could argue that what this film is looking for is a very strong and serious central performance. And it is a little bit odd to see Arnold doing a part like that. There's no real one-liners or anything like that. There's no humour here at all. It's not that kind of film. And he pretty much just manages to pull the role off, I think, Schwarzenegger. I think I would have maybe have liked David Ayer to stretch him a little bit more. Obviously, the physical side of the stuff he kind of pulls off, and the gunplay and all that kind of stuff. It's second nature to them at this point. But there was a scene in this film, and I didn't buy it, where he kind of grabs Joe Manganiello's character by the throat and slams him on a table. And he's like 6 inches taller than Schwarzenegger, sort of thing. I didn't buy it, but they did kind of sell it off in a sense of that this character Grinder, was never going to lift a finger towards Schwarzenegger because he respected him too much. So they kind of glossed over it a little bit. But I did like it. I thought the action was slick. I thought the story was good. The story arc was good, and I was interested by the end. And if you do watch this on Blu-ray, there's an alternate ending, because you get an ending that you do kind of, I thought was very effective and it worked, but you also get, I think there might even be a couple of alternate endings on the Blu-ray, but there's one in particular that I thought was very, very good and would have worked just as well. So yeah, I think Sabotage is a decent film. Yes, it's flawed. Is it in Schwarzenegger's top 10? No, of course it isn't. But out of the films he's done in the last, 20 years, I think it's up there in regards to quality and production values and cast and all that kind of stuff. I think it works pretty well, and it's a pretty gritty and violent film. It just doesn't hold back at all. It feels very grimy and violent, and it's not a fun movie or anything like that. It's not a light movie. You've not got Arnold, sucking on a stogie and having fun here and there. It's not that kind of movie at all. It's a very serious film. It's a very David Ayer film, to be fair. And I think this is fairly criminally underrated. If you look at the score for this on IMDb, I think it's got something like a 5.5 out of 10 or something. That's ridiculous. It is nowhere near as bad as that. And I've seen some fairly scandalous kind of reviews for this sort of film. It's nowhere near as bad as all that. Definitely worth a watch if you've never checked it out. I think you may well enjoy it. And thank you very much for joining me for this review. I haven't done an Arnie review for a while. Quite enjoyed catching up with this film because I've not seen it for a while. I will get back to you, of course, with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.